Good evening. We're going to continue on with our multiplicative comparisons with Lesson 3. Describe relationships between measurements by using multiplicative comparisons. This is where we would actually say longer than, heavier than, wider than. We're going to start using that type of language when we do comparisons. In our first example tonight, we have these two scales measuring the weight in a unit called grams. And in our first one, we have a picture of a scale that's weighing a pair of scissors. And in the second one, we have a scale that's measuring a pencil. So we need to look at the scale and look at the measurement, see how much does each one of these weigh. Well, if you look closely enough, the scissors here are starting at 40, 41, 42. So the scissors weigh 42 grams. Now the pencil weighs, let's look at that. Pencil weighs over here, this halfway point is a 5, 6, and then this is a 7. So the pencil weighs 7 grams. So let's write that down. We've got my pencil is just going crazy here. 42 grams, and the pencil weighs 7 grams. So we need to come up with that multiplicative comparison. So the scissors weigh more than the pencil. So the scissors weigh, let's think of our 42 divided by 7. So how much more does the scissors weigh than the pencil? Well, if we do the inverse operation, 42 divided by 7 is equal to 6. So the scissors weigh 6 times as many as the pencil, because 7 times 6 is 42. In our next picture, we have these graduated cylinders, and they measure volume. Volume is how much a container of liquid something can hold. In container 1, if we look really carefully, they give us a little zoom in here, and it starts off at 40, and then it goes to 41 and 42. So the liquid in this container has 42 milliliters. That's the unit of measure, milliliters. Now in the second container, container B, if we zoom in, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 milliliters. So we've got one that says 42 milliliters, and the container B has 7 milliliters. So we need to figure out and do the inverse operation of the two. We could say 42 divided by 7 is equal to 6. Let's just this. Okay, so container A is 6 times more as many than the container B. So there's our comparison. Container A holds more than container B, and it's 6 times as many. All right, the third picture that we're going to be seeing, we're going to be measuring in length, length and width and the height. This is a type of measurement that we're going to be looking at. And we would either say taller, shorter, and the unit of measure we're going to be looking at is in centimeters. And in this ruler, this side is the inches, and then over here is the centimeters. Now, Amy's tower is how big? Well, let's zoom in and see. Amy's tower is 15 centimeters, whereas Gabe's tower is at 5 centimeters. So we need to figure out how Amy's tower is blank times as many as Gabe's tower. So what we have to do is, well, how much was in Amy's tower? Amy's tower was 15 centimeters. Gabe's tower was 5. So we want to know how many times as long was Amy's tower than to Gabe's tower. Now, if we do the inverse operation, we do 15 divided by 5. Well, we need to think. 5 times what gives us 15? Now, if we know our facts, it's 3. So, Amy's tower is 3 times as, would you say, longer, taller? So you could say as Amy's tower is 3 times as tall as Gabe's tower. So that's how you would create this comparison using the words now, like shorter, taller, wider. In our next picture, we have now rectangles. Rectangle K is being compared to rectangle L. And obviously, you could tell that rectangle L is much smaller than rectangular K. But again, we have to figure out that multiplicative comparison. How many times as longer or wider, we would need to write that out. So here we go. Let's figure it out. So we have got a measurement, a total of 28 centimeters in the bigger one. So I'm going to write 28 centimeters is equal to, well, we don't know how much wider the rectangle K is to rectangular L, but we do know the measurement of the width of rectangular L would be 7, so we're going to place 7. So now we have to say, let's do the inverse operation. 28 is equal to, divided by 7. So 28 divided by 7, if you know our facts, we could do 7 times what gives us 28, and it would be 4. So we would fill this in as rectangle K is 4 times as long as rectangle L. Okay, and the next one, we have a rectangle K and a rectangle L. And we see that in the big one, in rectangle K, we have 21 centimeters. But we don't know how many times as long is 3 to rectangle L to rectangle K. We do know that rectangle L is 3 centimeters, so I'm going to put 3. All right, and we don't know. We got to figure out that missing number. So let's figure out by doing it the inverse operation. 21 divided by 3. Or we can say 3 times what gives us 21. And with our facts, we know that 3 times 7 is 21. So we're going to put 7 here. So rectangle K is 7 times as wide as rectangle L. Okay, next one. This week, Casey runs 8 kilometers and Robin runs 40 kilometers. How many times as far as Casey does Robin run? So now we're focusing on that language, as far. It was always, before in the previous lessons, it was times as many. So now we're using other languages, like how much taller, how much wider. We're using more language in our math. So we have to figure out how much did Robin run in this multiplicative comparison. And the best way to solve for this is actually creating a tape diagram. So we know, I'm going to put a C for Casey, and Casey has a block here, and this is going to represent 8 because she ran 8 kilometers. Now Robin ran 40 kilometers. So this whole thing represents 40. But in this one section of this, we have an 8. But we don't know how much this needs to be broken up into. So we're going to say R times as far. We need to figure out that missing letter. In math, a letter is called a variable. So you can use any letter in the alphabet to represent a variable. It's a missing number that we have to figure out. So we're going to use the letter R as our variable because it stands for Robin. And I'm going to make an equation using our variable. So we're going to use R is our variable, unknown, we don't know the answer. R is equal to, in the inverse operation, 40 divided by 8. R is equal to 40 divided by 8. And if we continue on, bring down our variable because that is the unknown number. Now, if we do 8 times what gives us 40, we know that it would equal 5. So it says that basically telling us that Robin runs 5 times as far as Casey. 5 times as far. Keep shining, 4-3. You're doing a great job. Continue the good work. In our first problem tonight, Scott weighs his dog and his cat. His dog weighs 36 kilograms, and his cat weighs 4 kilograms. How many times as heavy as Scott's cat is his dog? All right, so how many times as heavy? Jaden and Cameron draw rectangles. The width of Jaden's rectangle is 4 centimeters. Cameron's rectangle is 5 times as wide as Jaden's rectangle. What is the width of Cameron's rectangle? We're looking for how wide. Again, we're trying to use those words when we make our comparisons. Keep changing, keep asking, keep growing, keep evolving, keep succeeding, keep moving, and always keep shining. Great job tonight, guys. We'll practice this more tomorrow.